Hey guys, I know it's been a minute and I am back. Over the last 10 months, I have been planning my wedding. I literally got married last week. It was the best day of my life. Just absolutely perfect, a dream, everything I ever wanted. I felt like I was walking on a cloud. But what's happened is I've had a lot of people reach out to me asking me tips on planning a wedding, especially when you don't have a wedding planner, because I didn't. I basically planned and coordinated everything myself. Especially when you have a venue that requires you to bring in external vendors. But basically, what I want to share with you in this video is just going over kind of the first things that you should do when you get engaged and you're starting to plan a wedding. And without a wedding planner especially, these are the things that kind of were my saving grace and just kind of kept me on track throughout the whole planning process. So I'm going to share those with you, and here they are. So the first thing that I did when I got engaged and started planning my wedding was I signed up for The Knot. You can go in to their website, you can register your wedding date, you can choose all your venues, you can pick vendors, you can put a budget in, and then they curate a list, a checklist of everything that you need to do for your wedding day and timelines on when to do those. There's some really critical things like when you should be going dress shopping, when you should have your flowers booked by. So all these different things and kind of the timelines on how far in advance you should have these things done. They're there so you can plan completely your schedule for your week, what you have to get done in a week in regards to your wedding. I know if you're working and trying to plan a wedding at the same time like I was, this can be really overwhelming. So just to kind of have these things, it says at the top like this week, this is what you have to do. So that really helped keep me on track, and I would recommend if you don't have a wedding planner who's thinking about all these things for you and telling you like we need to get this done, do this, because it was absolutely the thing that kept me on track through the entire wedding planning process. The next thing is I've been doing this probably already for the last like 7 years because I'm kind of crazy like that. But if you don't already, which a lot of people already do, make a very organized Pinterest board for your wedding. I'm not talking about just saving ideas for like if you're gonna get married in 5 years, because I did that and it was really confusing. So what I did was I started a new Pinterest board and I made subcategories within that board. So dress, table settings, just overall vibe, bridesmaids, groomsmen, all these different categories. This was so good for giving to my vendors. So for example, my decorator, I just sent him a link to my board. I made it public and I allowed him access to table settings, table decor, sweetheart table, all these different subcategories that I had, he had access to see my inspiration, to see exactly what I wanted for my day and kind of the vision that I had. Same with flowers. You can have one for flowers. You can have one for bridesmaids flowers. If you want to get really specific, you can have honestly boards for everything. You could have bridesmaid flowers, flower girl flowers, guest table flowers, so many different things. Anyways, be as organized as possible, because when you share these things with your vendors, it's going to make their life way easier and it's going to make your life a lot less stressful if you can just hand these links over and just trust that they are going to take what you're giving them and run with your vision. They're professionals. You obviously want to hire people who you trust. So just to give them that overall vibe of what you're looking for, I think that really helped. So the third thing, and maybe this should have came before the other ones, kind of, but not really, because I'm just saying make the Pinterest board and sign into the Knot first, but really this is the first action you want to take, is make your budget. Because before you can hire any vendors and go to your flower person and go to your decorator and say, this is what I want, this is the vibe I have, you kind of need to know how much you're going to spend. Obviously, everybody can spend different amounts of money on their wedding, but there's a lot of budget saving tips that I have as well, just from DIY decor, so that I didn't rely on my decorator for all his decor. Lots of things, because weddings can get so expensive. So set a budget and determine what you absolutely want to splurge on. So a lot of women want to splurge on their dress. That is something that they will not compromise on, and that is a big splurge. Likewise with invitations. Now there's a lot of ways you can get creative with little DIY things with invitations and decor, so I won't get into that here, but just kind of decide what is your priority and what is things that you don't mind kind of not scrimping on, but like looking for alternatives that you're not dead set in love with an idea and you don't mind kind of saving in certain aspects. Make your budget. Thank you so much. So the next thing to do is to vet your big ticket vendors. So if you have a venue in mind, that is one of the first things you need to book. My fiance, now husband, already had our venue booked when he proposed to me because he knew that was the venue that I really wanted to get married in. I had obviously talked about it for a few years prior to us getting engaged. So he had made sure that he had a date reserved before we even got engaged, because most of the times you have to be at least a year in advance for a venue in a small town. So if you're in a big city, probably even longer. So that is one of the first things you want to do. Start thinking about who you want to decorate. Decorating is a huge job, and if you do not have a wedding planner, you need a decorator, because you do not want you or your wedding party the night before or the day of your wedding even to be decorating your venue. Another thing is, if you want video photographer, you need to start looking into those things now, because these things are things that you have to book well in advance, at least a year most times. I was pretty lucky. We got engaged and we got married 10 months later, but most times I would give it about a year for these big ticket things. And keep your not checklist on your mind all the time. Leave it open on your desktop at all times. I literally always had it open and I was always checking what I had to do. So make sure these big ticket vendors are secured well in advance. I'm talking a lot with my hands. Okay, so the last tip is kind of ambiguous, but I just want everybody out there who is planning a wedding to really keep in mind, just know your limitations, because honestly, it can get so overwhelming. I didn't even know how overwhelming it would get near the end, and I don't think people who have never planned a wedding understand. I mean, you're planning an event. We had 300 people at our wedding, so it was a huge event. So you're planning an event that you would not normally plan. This is not something that like we just do in our day-to-day, and if you're not a wedding planner, you don't know timelines, budgets, what things cost. So just really keep in mind what your limitations are. If you're not the type of person who can manage contacting different vendors and making sure that you're coordinating between the venue and your flowers and your decorator, and that you can keep these things all on track and on schedule, and basically manage all of these things while also running your life, which is completely understandable. Like, people do this as a job. People are wedding planners as a full-time job, and it's completely understandable. So just know kind of what you can and can't do. If you need to hire a decorator, and just ask them what they can include, how many things can be included in that, because it really saves you time and stress when you're planning a wedding, which you want to be just like the happiest time of your life. It's obviously going to get stressful, but you just want to keep in mind it's going to be the most magical day. It's honestly so worth it if you're the type of person who really has this dream of like a beautiful wedding like I did, and you're going to be floating on a cloud like I was, and it's all going to be worth it. So just know kind of what you can and can't do. If you aren't a good DIY crafter, then don't try to do DIY crafts. If you know somebody that can do those things, enlist them to help. I mean, there's nothing wrong with asking anybody for help, and this is the one time when everybody wants to help and everybody wants something to do. So just keep that in mind, and I hope these tips help. I have so many DIYs and budget-saving tips. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about planning a wedding, just leave them below, and I will be back very soon with more wedding tips. And if there's anything else you want to see, definitely leave it below. And don't forget to subscribe, because I have a lot more videos coming. Actually, this time I'm so ready to make lots of videos about lots of things that are going to help you guys with this and other stuff. So hope you like this video. Give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.